好，上面嘅記者朋友可能。好，麻煩鄭委。
Thank you very much. Friends from the media, welcome to the 2024 Policy Address press conference. We will first hear from the Chief Executive before the floor is open for questions. Chief Executive, first of all, I thank you all very much for coming to the government complex to give me a chance to go over the salient points of the Policy Address 2024. I will tell you about my philosophy in the drafting of the policy address. For this policy address, there are 31,800 words with 9 chapters and 228 paragraphs. I want to make use of this press conference to explain to you about the top level design, my rationale, and the decision-making process. After this press conference, there will be press conference by secretaries of departments. They will give you details of the areas under their portfolio. First of all, I would like to tell you about my philosophy in the drafting of the policy address. I have already announced the theme of the policy address, which is reform for enhancing development and building our future together. This is consistent with what I said in my first term. I use a result-oriented approach. I look at results and pragmatism, and I set my eye on not just 1 year. I would like to have continuity so that results will be delivered in the end. There are 3 principles. First, people are at the heart of everything I do. We make use of development of our economy to improve people's lives. What we'd like to do is to do things to benefit people and to meet their needs. Every day there are new issues cropping up. We need to address these issues. When we accord priorities, we are people-oriented. The economy can solve a lot of issues because when it comes to policy implementation, it needs resources. So we need to develop the economy to implement government policies as well as to benefit the general public. Members of the public can work, make money, and pursue their dreams. So development can improve people's lives. My theme is reform for enhancing development. Reform is continuous. We strive to do better all the time. It is a long process. In the process, we reflect upon ourselves and make improvements as necessary. In formulating policies, what we need to do is to take into account Hong Kong's actual situation, the global trend, and changes around us. So we need to take into account the changes around us and make adjustments. Everything we do must be done on a strong basis, taking into account what's happening around us and in the world. I emphasize that in this policy address, you will find strives for improvement and for reform. As I said, reform is a continuous process. We need to continuously think. In the process, we identify what is inadequate, and then we come up with solutions. There are areas where it's lacking, and we need to make improvements. At different times, there may be new problems, there may be bottlenecks, there may be difficulties and hurdles. So we need to resolve all these issues and remove obstacles. We need to consolidate, reinforce, improve areas in need of these efforts. We need to continue to deepen the reform. What do we take into account? We need to bear in mind what happened in history when we consider the present situation. We need to look at the phenomenon to see the essence. Everything happens for a reason. If we just look at a fragment of what happens, we lose sight of the overall picture. A problem may come because of a cyclical issue or other reasons. It may be a problem from the system or from an individual. There are symptoms. So we need to look at the overall picture and consider the background and the history. If we look further back in history, we will be able to look further ahead in the future. A systematic mindset is important. What is it? It means that when an issue exists, it exists because of various reasons and everything is intertwined and interlinked. That's why we need to have a systematic mindset. We need to manage the relationships between the overall and local interests, between the present and the future, and consider whether it is a primary issue or a secondary issue. That brings me back to the setting of priorities. In addition, we need to consider whether it is a general issue or a specific issue. We also talk about the relationship between macro and micro concerns. What does it mean? We see the trees and we see the woods. So we look at the global situation, we look at the national situation, and the situation in our society. Micro issues are important because it's related to people's livelihood. So when it comes to policy formulation and reform, we need to consider this array of factors to make sure that we consider everything and take everything into account. This is my third policy address. The objective evolves with the times. This is my third policy address. The theme is reform for enhancing development and building our future together. Where did this theme come from? The objective of policy address. Well, between 20 2020 and 2022, it was a time when Hong Kong was plagued by the epidemic. So the objective of the policy address was to chart a brighter tomorrow for Hong Kong.
Consolidate and enhance our role as an international financial, shipping, and trade center. These three elements are interrelated. Take trade. We have goods. Goods require shipping. Shipping requires capital. Capital requires finance. Finance drives trade. That's why these three elements complement one another. That's why when we look at the measures in the policy address, such as creating this international center for gold storage and also an international gold trading center, and also this commodity trading ecosystem, and also internationally recognized storage for non-ferrous metal, and also moving faster in building a green shipping center. Now, the other factor is we want to develop new quality productive forces in line with local conditions. Such productive forces are the root of our competitive edge in different areas. So we propose developing a low-altitude economy. We propose a $10 billion fund to guide INT industries that will invest in strategic emerging industries of the future. We want to develop new energy sources, and we want to turn Hong Kong into an international hub for medical innovation. We will also have this GBA clinical trial collaboration platform. We also want to turn Hong Kong into a hub for international high-caliber talent. We will set up a committee on talent education and technology. This matters because we want integrated development. By competitive edge, we focus on talent. Without technology, there's no future for a place. So we need talent and technology to go hand in hand. Here, education comes in because that's how we can have technology and nurture talent. We want integrated development of education, technology, and talent, and then we will get synergy. and that's how we can maximize the outcome. So for this committee on education, technology, and talent, the Chief Secretary for Administration will be chairing this committee. We will have the Secretary for Education, the Secretary for Innovation, Technology, and Industry, and also the Secretary for Labor and Welfare on this committee. But apart from that, other bureaus and departments will also get involved. At this committee, the work will cover a wide range of areas. As we turn Hong Kong into a hub for international high-caliber talent, there will also be work on developing universities in the northern metropolis. Now, we also want integrated development of culture, sport, and tourism. There, the measures will include the Kai-Tak Sports Park. It will be a landmark for sport and mega events. We also want to strengthen our cultural confidence and also create a new landscape for our tourism development. Now, the Northern Metropolis will be a growth engine. We will deepen collaboration within the GBA. Our measures include taking forward the Northern Metropolis. Now, there will be projects due for completion in the 5 and 10 years' time in the Northern Metropolis, and people will see the results. Now, we will have the Shenzhen Hong Kong Technology Innovation and Technology Park. And we will have this outline development plan for the Shenzhen Hong Kong Innovation and Technology Cooperation Zones Hong Kong Park. And there will be a committee to steer the work. Now I turn to people's lives. For any policy, what matters is that people can share in the success of those policies, and our policies should meet people's needs. That's why we will have different measures. And those policies include an orderly approach to eradicating subdivided units. There will be a system for renting out subdivided units. So there will be basic housing units. We will have measures with legislation and enforcement. Subdivided units will have to meet the requirements for basic housing units. Such BHUs are about minimum standards for me and for the government. For people living in all kinds of housing, we want you to live in a better, bigger place. But let's stay pragmatic. There are people currently living in SDUs. We have to look after these people's needs. That's why we propose standards, as you can see in the policy address. A BHU cannot be smaller than 8 square meters. There has to be a window, an individual toilet. And we're also relaxing the loan-to-value ratio for all properties, 70% across the board. We will also be making changes or reforming the Employees Training Board. This will be a wholesale reform. So right away, there will be no restriction on the education level of who can sign up for those courses. Anyone over the age of 15 can sign up for those courses. There will be short, medium, and long-term courses. We will implement the annual review mechanism for minimum wage, and we will also be relaxing the 418 requirement. In its place, we will see the 468 requirement, that is 68 hours of work over 4 weeks. We want employees to get better protection. We will also deepen reforms in our medical or healthcare system. There will be changes to the functions and division of labor at the Health Bureau, Department of Health, and the Primary Health Commission. And we will also be expanding the 1+ system for drugs so that we have good drugs for use in Hong Kong. We will also be releasing a blueprint for the development of Chinese medicine. We support the establishment of the third medical school. We will also be revamping the maternal and child health and family plan services. There will be counseling for childbirth. There will be efforts to foster mother's health. There will be child care centers. We will also have more community living rooms from 4 to 7. There will be community pharmacies. There will be a directory for people to access primary health drugs at affordable prices. There will be 8 measures to support small and medium enterprises. I also propose to develop the silver economy. Now, the theme this year is reform for enhancing development and building our future together. The government will follow the policy address in delivering various policies and measures. They will stick to the philosophy of the policy address. Let's work together. We seize the opportunities. We pursue reform together. We seek development, and then we will be able to scale new heights and build a brighter future for the future.
Now the floor is open for questions. There are lots of reporters. When you are identified, please identify your media outlet and don't ask more than 2 questions. The lady in the middle, please. I'm from Singtao. First, I'd like to ask about subdivided units, SDUs. Well, the central authorities indicated that they would not want SDUs to appear in Hong Kong. Now you rename it into basic housing unit and try to make it a system. Does it mean that when you put in place a regulatory regime, there is no more SDU? I would like to ask about liquor rates, where 85% of the liquors are under $200. So most of it will not be affected. So what is the effectiveness of this reduction in duty rate, and how will it affect the high value market? Well, as I said, that my philosophy remains the same. As I explained when I delivered the policy address at LegCo, different subdivided units are in different conditions. There are 110,000 households living in SDUs. Some are living in these units for a very long time because this issue has been with us for a very long time. 110,000 households have a need to stay in this kind of housing. The quality of SDUs vary. When we conducted the research, we have gleaned some information. There are some units with a size of under 7 square meters, but some are as big as close to 20 square meters. Size. 15% said that it is of the right size, and they think that it's spacious enough for them. Of course, for the majority of these SDUs, the environment has to be improved. improved. Basic housing unit is going to be. I learned from news reports that with the new standard set, some companies understand what they are required to do, and they believe that there will be 10 or 20% more in supply. Supply will follow demand in the market. If demand means bigger flats, then supply will change. This is a sizable problem, and it cannot be resolved overnight. That's why we need to do it gradually. We set down this basic housing unit regime. It has to go through the legislative process. I'm sure that we will receive comments for the regime to be improved and for the regime to be fully discussed. There will be ample time for registration. Existing tenants will have time to, and owners will have time to register. We don't allow new registration afterwards. So when there is a new SDU made available in the market, the standard has to be met. We do not want the number of inadequate SDUs to increase. In addition to the registration period, there is a grace period. The grace period is for existing units to go through renovation. It may cost several thousands or tens of thousands or around 100,000, depending on the extent of renovation required. Well, if the rent difference is much higher for subdivided units, and as long as the requirements are met, that means the SDU leasing operation can go on for years, and owners can make money. Of course, we need to consider the overall supply of housing and our construction process. We believe that 30% of existing SDUs will have to go through renovation and refurbishment. We attach importance to operability as well as flexibility. This is a problem that has been with us for over a decade. It cannot disappear overnight. And we need to bear in mind there is a need. the Secretary for Housing is authorized to take into account the situation. SDUs not meeting the standard of basic housing unit will see that actions are taken against them. When the S4H makes the decision to take action, then the case of the tenants will be considered. It may be households that are fit and eligible for public housing allocation. We need to do it in a gradual manner and in an orderly manner. We need to ensure that the process is done well and smoothly. Now I turn to liquor duty. The policy objective is to promote the development of high-end liquor market and related businesses. We have considered a lot of factors. We have heard views asking for the promotion and development of this trade and adjustments for the duty. Of course, it's the government's policy not to encourage drinking. We have struck a balance of different interests. We've drawn reference from the experience and the implementation of the scrapping of wine duty. We decide that there are two levels of liquor. The first are those that are under the price of $200. This account for about 85% of the liquor available in the Hong Kong market. 200 is the imported price, is the import price. So 85% of liquors in Hong Kong has an import price of $200 and below. The duty rate will not change. For high-end liquor, the duty will be reduced. We think that there is a potential to develop the market of high-end liquor. In 2008, we reduced the wine duty. The experience is of a high reference value. We compare the situation in 2023 with 2007 when the wine duty was not reduced. So when it comes to value and re-import, the value has increased by 375%, but the volume itself has increased by just 33%. When it comes to change in duty, expensive products will be affected. The experience of wine is that value has increased by over 300%, but the volume increased by only 30%. So we believe that high-end liquor will see a bigger difference in the sales volume and value. Over 1 year after wine duty has been reduced, we see an increase of about 350 operators of wine and an increase by about 1,000 jobs. The income for that sector has increased by about 35%. And Hong Kong has gone up in ranking in wine trade. We do not encourage drinking, but we promote high-end liquor business.
去側邊
Next question on the right, the gentleman over there. I'm from Phoenix TV. My questions are, now we don't see reference to the economy at this policy address. So this is your third policy address. There are long-term measures, but are there short-term measures for retail and tourism? Now I see a reference to the multiple entry visit for people from Shenzhen and also more mainland cities to be covered by the weekly visit visas. When can we see these measures in place to benefit retail and tourism? Now about the two capital investor entrance scheme. Now people can invest in real estate under the scheme, but people have to invest in upmarket home. Will there only be a limited effect on the property market? Will the measure be relaxed to cover ordinary properties? First of all, I am grateful to the central government for actively considering our suggestions. So now the weekly visit visa for people from Shenzhen has been relaxed. It would be a multiple visit visa, and the weekly visit visa would be expanded to cover other mainland cities. I'm grateful to the central authorities for saying they will consider our suggestions favorably. The facilitation measures for Hong Kong come out one at a time. And let's not underestimate the time and the number of mainland authorities involved for every facilitation measure to be in place. I put forward many suggestions after we put COVID behind us. The mainland authorities tried their best to consider our proposals. And this time we're seeing results through collective effort. I've just delivered my policy address. You may need more time to go through the details. Many measures proposed today will take effect immediately. Take the 8 measures for SMEs, and also relaxing the loan-to-value ratio to 70%. We have this chapter on people's well-being. You will see those measures in place soon. Now for retail and tourism. Whether we have a blueprint or we are working on a blueprint, some measures are already in place. We make an announcement after consolidating the measures. Now, when you look at the chapters on building a caring and inclusive society, you will see measures will be in place soon. There are measures on welfare, such as our targeted poverty relief measures, support for carers, care for the elderly, greater support for persons with disabilities, etc. Those measures can take effect immediately. Directors of bureaus and secretaries of departments will be announcing the details. Now, on relaxing the capital investor entrance scheme, we have struck a balance. We want stimulus. And as I said in my policy address, there are pros and cons to everything. One thing I want to avoid is that investors with means come here, but I don't want that to affect ordinary people who want to purchase a property. That's why I'm only restricting the measure to upmarket homes at $50 million. Those people, if they can afford a $50 million home, they don't need government help. So we don't want ordinary people to be affected by measures. Now, over the past 6 months, even before this relaxation, we granted 500 applications. So for this $15 billion requirement, further relaxations can bring in more investors. On my social media platform, I noticed people expressing an interest. So we want to bring in capital. At the same time, we don't want the public to be barred from housing. Now, there's a point about talent. There's a global scramble for talent. We try to attract talent. There are talented people. They want to come here, but they're not sure whether they will succeed in filing an application. So we feel that we have to be proactive. I'm telling you about the philosophy of my policy addresses over 3 years. This policy address is about action. We want results. That's why I'm saying this time we want to invite people to apply to our QMAS scheme. But of course, we stick to standards in processing applications. Next question. On the right, the gentleman in the second row. I'm from the CMG. In your policy address today, it starts with reform in your theme. We just had the third plenary session of the 20th CPC Central Committee. There, the focus was also on deepening reform. So my question is, which parts of your PA implement the spirit and resolution of the third plenum to give full play to Hong Kong's edge and support our country's development? If you read through the PA, you will see 2 elements. I've covered these 2 points earlier today, and that is 1, sticking to the 4 proposals from President Xi Jinping's speech on July 1st, 2022. And that's something that permeates the policy address. That speech from President Xi is a blueprint for my policies. The second element has to do with the chapter on Hong Kong from the resolution of the third plenum. In chapter 1 of my policy address, I refer to the third plenum, the resolution of the CPC Central Committee on further deepening reform comprehensively to advance Chinese modernization. Hong Kong has to fully harness the institutional strengths of one country, 2 systems, while consolidating and enhancing its status as an international financial, shipping, and trade center. And also, we have to become an international hub for high-caliber talent, so that Hong Kong can play a greater role in our country's opening up to the world. We should also deepen collaboration within the GBA through better harmonization of rules and mechanisms. The 9 chapters in my policy address show now we stick to one country, 2 systems. Chapter 3, consolidating and enhancing our status as an international financial, shipping, and trade center. Chapter 4, developing new quality productive forces tailored to local conditions. Chapter 5, turning Hong Kong into an international hub for high-caliber talent. Chapter 6, promoting integrated development of culture, sports, and tourism, and fostering economic diversification. This is about building cultural confidence. This is also about promoting Chinese culture in Hong Kong. There's also much discussion about developing the GBA, and there's a part on taking forward the Northern Metropolis as a growth engine and deepening GBA collaboration, and also a part on He Tao, or the loop. From that, you can see this PA is about implementing the 4 proposals from President Xi's speech. This document is also about implementing the spirit of the 3rd plenum about deepening reforms. Our policies are along that direction. So let me give you an example. The Chief Secretary for Administration will be chairing this committee on education, talent, and technology. This is based on the speech given by President Xi at the Conference on Education. Education, technology, and talent need to go hand in hand. I fully agree with President Xi on this. That's why this committee will play a huge role. This will matter for Hong Kong's economy and competitiveness. Next question.
The gentleman on the left.
Yes. Some opinions, such as the League of Social Democrats, have demanded democratic reform for Hong Kong.
Sorry,
Political reform.
Where you are?
Hong Kong Free Press.
Okay.
Yeah,
I got you.
Hong Kong Free Press. Yeah.
I just want to look at you.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah. Some opinions, such as the League of Social Democrats, have demanded democratic reform for Hong Kong. Are political reform and universal suffrage on the agenda of this administration? The second question, the proposed regulation on subdivided flats do not cover the so-called coffin homes or cage homes. Why is this so? Will the government consider extending the regulation to cover this type of subdivided flats? Thank you.
Well, I have said more than once that the political reform has been settled at this moment with the introduction of, first of all, the new election system for electoral members, for the chief executive, and also after improving the district administration system. At this moment, I think it is important to ensure that all these improvement of the different election systems will be run smoothly, and also they function effectively to realize the maximum benefit that all these improved measures intend to create. We still have time to make this all this system run so that they synergize and create extra value for society. It takes everybody's efforts who are in these 3 systems to think of what they should do. They reform themselves so that they can contribute even bigger value to the overall good. And all these 3 systems work towards the same goal of creating the positive value for Hong Kong as a whole. So what you have just said, I think, is settled. It will not be an issue in this term of government. The second thing regarding subdivided flats, the system that I want to introduce through legislation is not to make what is illegal now legal. What is illegal now will continue to be illegal under the respective ordinances. Enforcement will be taken accordingly. And of course, we'll step up the enforcement in concert with the new policy of subdivided flats, which will be introduced in residential buildings. So the intention is to, first of all, regulate the subdivided flats using this basic housing concept, so that we have a standard below which we will take action against, because they will not be regarded as the right standard for our households to live in. I think that is the intention. And we make this policy knowing that it is a difficult matter. That is why I hope it will be thoroughly debated in NATCO so that we can enhance it. We also want to ensure that this new system will be able to tell the market, which in some way need to exist by the sheer evidence that over 110 households are living in these accommodations. We want this market to be healthily in existence. In other words, all the standards have to be met, and we will be taking action after a reasonable registration period and a reasonable tolerance period, giving the Secretary for Housing the flexibility so as to divide the non-satisfying units and form section according to the actual situation, so that it will take them off the market lot by lot to ensure that things will progress in an orderly manner. It is not easy, but I think it is a problem everybody wants to see solved. And it is under this determination that I would really request collectively we can discuss the system that I have recommended, and then come to a good consensus, eventually electrical, so that we can pass a law for all these things to happen. And I think in due course, we should be able to solve the problem of people having to live in substandard accommodation.
我下條提問。
Next question on the right, on the far end, the lady over there. I'm from Xinhua. Now we see reform and change are keywords in your policy address. You proposed many measures about the economy and people's quality of life. So do these measures implement what's proposed in the third plenum? Hong Kong has risen in its ranking in many international reports. So how do we go forward to truly go from stability to prosperity? In my policy address, I made roughly 40 references to reform in the Chinese text. It's more than just 40 references. We want to create a commodity trading ecosystem. That's an example of reform. It will be a new growth point. If you read through my policy address, you will see reform being reflected in many ways. We are after results. You can look at things with a short-term view, or you can take the long-term lens. Now let's look at commodity trading ecosystems. This ecosystem will take time to build. Commodity trading covers many things. Non-ferrous metal, for example, grains, fuel, commodity trading makes up roughly half of our air cargo. That's why I proposed this ecosystem. But this is more than idle talk. There are opportunities. And here's why. There's a commodity trading platform. It's international. That platform said it wanted to build a storage system for commodities in Hong Kong. Once we have the warehouses, we will see the difference. Let's also look at where we start. First, we have to build up the capacity. We also need flexibility. And then operators will come in. Many Chinese businesses said they took an interest in commodity trading. Our country makes up at least 20% of the commodity trading market in Asia. We're not starting from zero. We are starting from 10%. I don't want to stop at reaching just 100%. I want to reach 200 or 300%, but that will take time. That's our vision as we find new growth points in our pursuit of reform. Now, there's also a proposal about the storage of gold. Spot gold, that is. It's 150 tons right now. Some countries are building additional warehouses. They have 500 tons. So we have a long way to go. We pursue reforms where they are needed. This will be no easy task. But I believe in Hong Kong. We believe we can do that. The government has to point to the right direction. Some businesses have asked for policy directions in these areas. So we work together. So different parties want to work together towards the goal. I hope I have answered your questions. Next question. On the right, the gentleman in the middle. Second row.
AFP. First, some residents who are living in substandard subdivided units are worried that the new standards for basic housing units will lead to higher rents and or that landlords will kick them out. How will the government support these people who may lose their homes that they are currently living in? Second, in the sections on national security, part of the focus was put on public officers, such as proposing a new set of guidelines for them to abide by Article 23. Does this show that there are still some loopholes within for public officers, such as within the civil service? Are civil servants confused on how to follow Article 23? Thank you.
First of all, the problem of some households living in substandard, subdivided flats is a problem that has been long-lasting. In other words, it has accumulated over the years. So very conscious of the fact that we have to do it in an orderly manner so that adjustments can be made by the parties affected. Oh, first of all, from now to the time we will actually take enforcement action, I think there will be a few years. Because first of all, we'll have to pass the legislation, which I think the earliest will probably be next year. Then we'll introduce the registration period. My suggestion is either 12 months or 18 months, because we're talking about 11,000 households. So if you are talking about 12-month registration period, you're talking about probably roughly 10,000 a month, right? If it is 12 months, because you divide it by, so roughly, so it's 8,000 to 9,000 a month. So whether it should be 12 months, 18 months, I think we can debate and we can let LegCo debate about it. I'm very willing to listen. Then we'll introduce the tolerance period for adjustments structurally to be made. That it may be 1 year, 2 years, again, subject to discussion by LegCo, because under the present legislation, tenants are guaranteed 2 contracts. So we have to ensure that tenants' rights are protected under the present law. So again, this is an issue for LegCo to debate. And over this period of time, I think people can make the right adjustment. And the third important point is the new entries, the new supply of subdivided flats, which hasn't been rented out, i.e., there are no tenants, it is a new operator. They can only enter the market with units that satisfy the standard. They will not be allowed to register. Why is it designed this way? So that there will be no increase in substandard subdivided flats. In other words, all new supplies will have to be conforming to our standard. And this new supply will, of course, be available for present tenants to consider moving into. Because I believe once the standards are clearly defined and operators will know very well how to do their calculation as to what supply they would create, what houses that they would then build to satisfy our standard, then this supply will also come out for people to look at. And then, of course, if the rent is not set reasonably, they will not have tenants. So there are a lot of things. And also, individual cases, as we always have very special individual cases, we'll deal with individual cases specifically. But overall, I think what is important is when I designed any new measures, then I always ask myself the question, if these new measures solve 95% of the problem, should I still go ahead? So as to deal with the other 5 after the first implementation? Or should I ignore it until I have a perfect solution to solve 100% of the problem? So I decide to go out, even though there were maybe individual cases we may need to address. But overall, if the system solves the majority of the problems, I think we should go ahead. And then after implementation, we deal with the special cases. And regarding national security, the law has been created. We are talking about implementation. And for implementation, there's never the best, only the better. I've always said I look for continuous improvement. And the law is new, so we all need to increase our knowledge about it. It's so natural. I think it is such a natural thing for any government when there's a new law. They first all have to do some education, do some familiarization, do some system building, and do some enhancement in the course. It's a natural process.
好，下條提問。
Next question. The lady in the second row. I'm from cable TV. My first question, liquor duty. We heard from the government that they have struck a balance in relation to public health, but the rate has dropped from 100% to 10%. So where's the balance? A large number of doctors signed a joint petition objecting to the drop in liquor duty. Does it mean that you have sacrificed public health for the economy? There is a reduction. Is there a time when the duty will go back up when you have received a certain number of money in business? In relation to SDUs, how many SDUs will go through renovation before registration? And at the time when action will be taken, what about those who have been displaced? Do you think the market will be able to absorb the households who have been displaced? With a new system in place, what do you think the increase of rental will be on average? The current protection is a 4-year tenancy period and a cap on rent increase. Would there be further amendment to the SDU control? How do you make sure that rental is affordable? First of all, I'd like to say that I fully understand the concern of the healthcare sector. They are serious about not encouraging the public to drink. And our policy does not encourage people to drink. I personally do not encourage people to drink. I have repeatedly remind you all not to be addicted to alcohol or have an excess in consumption. In 2008, the wine duty was scrapped. For a short period of time after that, we saw an increase in alcohol consumption, but afterwards it's dropped. If you make comparison in 2023 to a time before the wine duty was scrapped, the number of people consuming alcohol remains the same. So that means the number of people who consume alcohol in 2007 is more or less the same as that in 2023. Alcohol consumption is subject to a number of factors. We have struck balance between promoting expensive liquor business, and public health. For 85% of the liquors available in Hong Kong, the rate remains the same. It's just about 15%, that is, those with the import price over 200% that will see a drop in duty rate. We talk about zero consumption of alcohol. We talk about prevention of driving under intoxication. These arguments applied in 2008 when the wine duty was scrapped. We do not encourage people to drink. Our target is expensive liquor. We decide to make an adjustment, having fully considered considerations in public health and promotion of trade. Well, only 15% of liquor in the market is high end. When it comes to price sensitive behavior, that's rather inelastic in the segment of expensive products. We fully understand the concern of the public health public health sector. We have fully considered relevant factors. Sorry, the speaker's off mic. Subdivided units. Well, if 30% of SDUs are substandard, it means they will be phased out. We have 110,000 households living in SDUs. About 40% of these households are eligible for public housing and are there on the waiting list. And about 20% of them will become eligible after some time. So overall speaking, about 60% of SDU tenants are eligible or will be eligible for public housing. So we have to go through legislation, registration, grace period, and then time for action to be taken. So the demand will be reduced to about 40 to 50%. On top of that, there will be market changes with the introduction of the new standard. In other words, after the time required to have legislation and substandard ones being phased out, some people will be eligible for public housing. Those who remain are those who are ineligible for public housing. They may be households that are wealthy. There may be households who are staying in Hong Kong for a short time. These households will be handled under existing policies. So in the future, when everything is in place, some households will move out. The remaining demand will be about 40%. Even with 30% of the units being phased out, there is still 70% of the units available in the market to meet demand. Of course, there is a relationship between macro and micro perspective. We need to take into account the market situation and do it in an orderly and gradual manner. The gentleman at the back. I'm from Ming Pao. First question. Some measures may be different from this stance of the government in the past. Say, in the budget, there was no indication that there will be adjustment of liquor, and there are also changes in the principal moratorium. Why is there such a sudden change? Is it because of the poor economy? That's why these measures are launched to try to save the economy. Chief Executive, you emphasize on reform. However, we have yet to see major changes and reform. What we see are existing measures and policies. Well, previously you talk about 8 centers. Now you change it to 3 centers because of the third plenary session. So can you give us more information? What is the future direction of our economy after the change? We have to take into account the situation in the formulation of policies. We consider the situation. If there is a need to take action, we will. There are 8 measures to help SMEs. We have received comments and considered them. If we go ahead ignoring comments and suggestions, then we're not a government that are working for the people. We make decisions, we accord priorities, and we do what is needed. I don't think that it is a negative mentality when existing policies are adjusted. We always work for the better. I always hope that Hong Kong will be better tomorrow. Hong Kong's economy is going through a period of change. There are some sectors facing challenges. At the same time, there are sectors doing quite well. In the past 2 quarters, we see a net increase in GDP by about 2 to 3%. That means, overall speaking, there is growth in Hong Kong's economy. It's just that some sectors may fare better than others. We render assistance to sectors facing difficulties. In relation to sectors that are doing well, you will see from our report that these sectors have registered growth. In a period of transformation, there will be changes. The duty of the government is to send out a clear message that this is a time of change. If you face difficulties, then you need to change and improve. If the government can help, then policies will be launched. That's why we have the 8 measures to prop up SMEs. Whenever we can, wherever we can, we will render more assistance given limited resources. We actually spend about $350 million per day on social welfare. So we do our best given the limitations in resources. We take an overall view. We launch measures to improve, to make improvements. We work for the benefit of Hong Kong as a whole. And the central authorities will have Hong Kong's interests in mind. When we formulate policies, we consider the opportunities given by the central authorities. So what we do and what directions the central authorities give go hand in hand. We follow the direction of the central authorities, and we play our role in the overall situation. The central authorities support and care for Hong Kong. We do our best. We enjoy we are doing better. I identified areas where we need improvement. When our ranking hasn't improved, then we will do more. So we have to reflect upon ourselves, and we seize upon the opportunities so that we can continue to scale new heights.
最尾一個係個男記者。
Last question at the back, the gentleman.
Some English questions from the South China Morning Post. Firstly, with regards to the measure regarding the housing market and the policy address, why does the government see the need to introduce property loan relaxation measures? And would this only benefit those who are looking to purchase high-end flats? And with subdivided units, how transparent would the government be with the requirements and the corresponding criminal liabilities regarding the subdivided units? Is it worried that what it's doing right now is going against the wish of Beijing to get rid of subdivided housing altogether? And lastly, with the focus of the government on the economy for this year's policy address, there doesn't seem to be further efforts to stimulate the economy beyond areas such as visa-free access for some countries, relaxation of loans, and even the reduction of spirits tax. Would you be concerned that these efforts would not be enough to kickstart the economy? And what do you think is the most eye-catching point of this year's policy address? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Well, first of all, we allow the mortgage rate to go back to 70% for all kinds of property, because I think the introduction of extra measures were made at a time when, first of all, the property market was too much of a problem for people to buy flats. So it has gone out of control. And you know that the property market has somehow consolidated, it has now settled down. So it will be unreasonable for measures that we introduce for a specific purpose, which no longer exists, to continue. I think it will be something you don't want the government not to action when some situation no longer exists and what may be regarded as inappropriate still continues. So that is the first point. The second point is, I do want to help people to buy their own flats if they can afford it. And from a lot of opinions which I receive in the consultation, the desire of Hong Kong people to buy their own flats continues to appear very strongly at the back of my mind. So I do want to help them to buy property by alleviating the burden of finding the enough down payment. Of course, at the end of the day, he has to make his own calculation to assess whether he can afford. But helping them in the first step to realize their dream, I think, is something I should try to do my best. And that is why when now I think the situation allows it, then I set the mortgage rate to 70% for all property. Regarding subdivided flats, I think we have to be realistic as to why subdivided flats exist. It exists over a long period of time because of need, because of actual need of households, because of lack of enough supply of flats. So we have to be realistic, pragmatic. We don't live in a dream world. We live in the real world. So I have to pragmatically address the problem. It's not easy, but I'm determined, and I think society support that we should solve the problem. So I need collective wisdom. I think during our consultation, during the study team, when they certainly worked very hard to do their own studies, consult stakeholders, they did an excellent job. And now I have come to a decision that, first of all, it has to be a legislative process so that it is clear. And when people are clear about what the rules are, then the market, which now exists but not properly regulated, will become a regulated market, supplying flats which satisfies the standard. And I think that is any government wants to do. And I think what is done, what is proposed is necessary according to the actual situation of Hong Kong. And I have said, I don't know whether it's in Chinese or English, the intention is not to make things that are illegal, legal. We just want to regulate residential flats, so that residential flats, which mainly create this market of subdivided flats, will be providing subdivided flats of a standard that we think will be a reasonable and livable standard. And according to, well, if you spend time to read the policy address, in a way, I can understand why all these questions come out, because it is the first day of the release of the document. It has, in Chinese, over 31,000 words. So it does take time to really look at the things in detail. But a lot are done to help the economy to grow. What is important is what we can strengthen, we will strengthen. At the same time, we look for new opportunities of growth. That is why, for some areas, we are recommending measures which I think is only probably 10% of the final goal that I want to go. Some may be at a position of 20%. So all these things work together, they create also a synergy effect. Hong Kong has been growing as a whole from the macro angle, because last year the GDP growth was 3.4%, something percent, 3.7. My memory slipped my mind, but it was over 3%. This year, the economy will still grow. The GDP is expected also to grow between 2.5 and 3.5%. And some analysts have suggested a rate of 3%. So overall, we're still growing. Economy is still going ahead. But of course, different sectors are at different stages. And I have to tell those sectors, if you're not doing too well, I will roll out measures to help you, but you have to help yourself. You have to change. You have to reform. Find new ways to make a difference for you to be able to win. And I think that has been the DNA of the Hong Kong people. And I make it no secret that we all have to work hard. That is why I say reform together and build our economy together. It is this togetherness that I want everybody to subscribe to, because working together will ensure that 1 + 1 will be bigger than 2. And when 7.5 million together, we work together, it will be bigger than 7.5 million effect. Thank you.
好，今日行政長官。
That concludes the press conference today. Thank you. Thank you.